Our next speaker is chairman of the board of the National Hemp Association, a Colorado-based nonprofit dedicated to the re-legalization of industrial hemp. His name is Michael Bowman, and he is a White House champion of change. He served as co-chair of Governor-elect Bill Ritter's energy transition team, and he is also an advisor to the Savory Institute, a global network focused on grasslands and carbon farming. He is a founding member of the Sustainable Biodiesel Alliance, 25 by 25, and Colorado Farm to Cafeteria Work Group. The American Renewable Energy Institute is lucky to have Mr. Bowman sit on its board of directors as well. Please join me in welcoming an old friend of mine, Michael Bowman, for a presentation on the rebirth of hemp, ancient plant, contemporary resource.
Well, thank you, Leilani. It's always a pleasure to be here today and amongst friends. And I'm particularly pleased to be following on the heels of a biochar conversation. I know I worked closely with Senator Ken Salazar in the previous Farm Bill, where biochar was for the first time was put into the language of the Farm Bill. And so these are always long slogs. And you think nothing's happening, but I was so thrilled to hear the previous conversation on where we are with what with the industry and what biochar can really do for us. And today I'm going to talk about industrial hemp, and it's something I've been passionate about for over 20 years, but spent a good deal of space on public policy over the last 5, in particular since 2012 when Colorado became the first state to put it in where farmers had the constitutional right to grow. That ballot initiative set in place a series of dominoes that brings us to today, where we have 33 states who have legalized industrial hemp in defiance of federal law as we move ahead and try to change the Controlled Substances Act and the scheduling of industrial hemp on Schedule 1 of that act. I know some people might say, what in the world are we talking about hemp for at an American Renewable Energy Day? But at its core, I'm a 5th-generation Coloradan. My family has been longtime farmers and ranchers on the Eastern Plains. And at our core, we all care about environmental justice. And that environmental justice also brings us to economic justice and social justice. The three are interlinked. And whether we're trying to find a way to give a solar panel to someone who is very economically challenged in an inner city, or whether we're trying to give a farmer a new tool so that they too can participate in the future of climate mitigation from the agricultural sector, they're all intertwined. They're the same thing. We talk about our solar wealth and the abundance that nature gives us, whether it's sunshine, photosynthesis, biomass. They all mean the same thing to all of us. And what is agriculture's role in our future? And it will be healthy soils. We've lost over half our soil carbon in this last century. As we watch the Central Great Plains, my family is as guilty of this as anyone. We grow corn under the federal farm policy. We pull ancient water out of an Ogallala aquifer with coal-fired power out of Wyoming so we can deliver corn to a marketplace. You couldn't design a dumber system if you were looking through the lens of what we do with the environment and our resources. But it is what we do, and it's driven in large part by public policy, and public policy matters. That's why I got into this space some time ago, was when we started with Amendment 37 in Colorado down the renewable energy road, and where Colorado then in that space too really set the standard nationally on how we moved the conversation forward around renewables. So I want to give you just a little background on industrial hemp and where we are today, where we started, and then we're going to see an 11-minute video that was produced by Patagonia that is just, I think, really brings everything together and synthesizes why I do what I do and why I think you should care why industrial hemp should be removed from Schedule 1. Industrial hemp can be traced back 12,000 years. We have literally evolved as a species with the cannabis plant. It has only been under the last 8 decades under Prohibition that plant has been removed from our access. And so while some politicians in this state, as we legalized both forms of cannabis, all forms of cannabis in this state, called it the great social experiment. This is the great social experiment. I would argue that the great social experiment was prohibition. It wasn't re-legalizing this plant, and prohibition failed. It has failed us. It has failed us in agriculture. It has failed us in the agriculture community. And in a broader sense, our $1 trillion failed war on drugs has failed us as well. How did we get there? It became a part of, through a series of executive actions and congressional actions, all forms of cannabis were put on Schedule I in Congress. And today we're faced with being treated on par with heroin and methamphetamines. This is a plant that has no psychoactive traces and substances at all that could do anything but solve our problems. And so we're having to work very hard because we're working on 8 decades of myths and lies ingrained and baked into a bureaucracy that today gives us the statement by the DEA director, which was on the screen earlier, a statement she made after Congressman Jared Polis and I were fortunate enough to fly a flag as a coup over the US Capitol on July 4th, when she said it was the worst day of her 33-year career at DEA, when she woke up on the morning of July 4th, 2013, and realized there was a flag made from industrial hemp flying over the US Capitol. That just tells you how far off the tracks this train has fallen. So we're working very hard. There's 2 bills in Congress right now, Senate Bill 134 and House Resolution 525. Those are collectively the Industrial Hemp Farming Act. They deschedule cannabis. They give the jurisdiction of this plant back to USDA and makes it a states' rights issue. We're looking forward to the opportunity to create these new opportunities for farmers in rural areas so that just like in our energy choices, where we have a choice to not choose coal power anymore, agriculture has a choice not to go down the route that modern agriculture has given us, which is very carbon intensive with pesticides, herbicides, and patented seeds. So with that, I'm going to ask them to cue this 11-minute video by Patagonia. It is done in concert with Patagonia and FiberShed, with some veterans in Kentucky who grew the first legal crop there. And I think it'll give you a sense of where we're trying to go with this plant that gives us food, feed, fuel, fiber, and pharma. Thank you. Cue it up.
They paved my road when I was 7 or 8 years old, and that spun my world upside down. I mean, I thought I had it made until that point. We rode that school bus that first day, and I came home, and that was the first time I'd ever looked at my own situation and was like, oh, fuck, I'm poor. And I remember thinking, I gotta do everything I can to get out of here. You know, I wasn't brought up to think about going to college. I either got a job or I went to the military. My brother served for 16 years. He was a combat medic for a special forces team. He got shot in the back of his helmet by a sniper. They found him unfit for duty and just discharged him with a traumatic brain injury and a whole host of other health problems that him and his family were left just to figure out what they were gonna do. And sadly, he's not unique in that aspect of being forgotten and left behind. We have this situation where we have over 1 million military personnel and veterans that receive food stamps every year because they can't feed themselves. That just didn't make a lick of sense to me. I started the Growing Warriors in 2012, just about the same time my brother was transitioning back to Kentucky. When you think about the type of industry that typically takes place in central Appalachia, you're looking at coal and manufacturing. And those are both very extractive industries. I mean, they pull things out without giving back. Industrial hemp is a community building industry. It's not a let's come in and take what we can get and leave type of industry.
I don't think there's anything more direct, more empowering, or more exciting that you could do for someone in modern society, but help them reconnect in the way that, some of our ancestors had the privilege of that everyday connection. And American hemp could offer that.
We've got enough rain, we got enough water, and we got enough farmers. We got a lot of farmers. We got a lot of small and mid-scale farms out here who are dying to figure out that holy grail of stability.
Industrial hemp has played a key role really in the founding of this country. The cannabis plant can produce a sundry of products that are food, feed, fiber, and fuel that have no psychoactive properties at all. Unfortunately for American farmers, industrial hemp has found its place on Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act. During the Farm Bill Act, it was just put into law a year ago, there was an amendment to the Farm Bill that would allow research and development of projects at the state level.
Because Kentucky emerged as this political opening, Mike Lewis and Growing Warriors, the nonprofit that he directs, was able to access seed.
We had actually gotten our seed in April of 2014. The DEA didn't agree that we had a right to plant the crop. They said they were going to arrest us for breaking the law. That following Monday, they were in federal court in Louisville, and Judge Rayburn had sided with us. Took our seeds up and got them registered, certified, brought them home, and threw them in the ground really quickly before anybody changed their mind.
So this is technically the first hemp crop in Appalachia.
Yes, it is. The first legal harvest. I'm 7th generation, and if you're from Eastern Kentucky or Appalachia, there's one thing that you've had in your blood at some point in time, and that's just you've lived off the land.
What's the word in town?
People still kind of standing back and waiting to see what happens. The one question that I get asked the most is, what the hell are you going to do with this stuff?
The grant from Patagonia allowed the veterans to build a machine to actually process their hemp by hand, because there was no infrastructure. They couldn't do it any other way. You learn the quality of the fiber. You learn its texture, its strength.
Right now, you can really feel the farm in the cloth.
The first American flags that were made in this country were made of industrial hemp.
That flag represents what this country could be.
Thank you. This is an extreme privilege and an honor I would first like to thank every man and woman that has put on a uniform in defense of our fellow citizens. From a simple hemp seed came the means to make the cordage that was converted into the sails and ropes that brought the first explorers to America, and later would feed the printing presses that would organize our first militias and ultimately helped us declare our independence. In 2014, with the help of some fellow veterans, we planted hemp seeds on our farm, and much like those earlier settlers, we embarked on a journey into uncharted waters. We chose to grow and create an American flag on principle, I suppose. As we have lost our connection with the land and the people who fed us, we've lost our sense of community, and more importantly, our sense of place. The flag represents the collective history and future of an entire nation of people, our people. So it shouldn't be made anywhere other than here, and it should most certainly not be made cheaply. In the end, there is more than just fiber that tears and fades when you use cheap goods to hold things together. It is no secret that America needs more farmers, but we need the tools to be successful. And industrial hemp is a cornerstone for financial and resource stability on the family farm. We are just one small team with limited resources, and we took simple seeds and we turned them into this flag that represents the strength and the ingenuity of the American farmer. I can only imagine what wonders we will see when every American farmer has the opportunity to grow this amazing crop. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I hope that gave you a little flavor of what we're fighting for. You know, hemp absorbs 4 times more carbon per acre than a standing forest, so agriculture's opportunities from a biochar perspective, which Alice and I have talked about this a lot, are incredible. The hemp oil that comes from the plant can displace fish oil, which would help us solve some ocean problems with the collapsing fisheries. There's just so many things we can do with this plant, and it's really important that we work on this and bring it back. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a couple of names in this process. Those, I don't know that Gail Schwartz is here this afternoon, but I know she will be. She, as a state senator, was our champion, and she carried our bills. She fought for us, and she's our true champion here in Colorado. Also at the federal level, we credit Congressman Polis for being the primary sponsor on the House Bill 525. He also has been a great champion for our cause and helping us get this passed. We're hopeful that it'll happen in the next session after election. With that, we have about 3 or 4 minutes. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Yes, sir.
Mike, I think the possibilities of hemp are extraordinary, and my concern is what's to keep it from being taken over by agribusiness. We just heard that it's a source of financial stability for the family farm, which is essentially a vanishing species in America. I have heard that there are investors coming from California that are buying up what seems to be agricultural land and are planning on developing things where they cannot produce their own seeds. They can get a monopoly on it. And all of this, I wonder, is that being addressed in this legislation? This is the time to do it, to have, for instance, legislation that will prohibit anybody from developing more than X number of acres. If we don't do that, it'll go the same way as marijuana, and the whole thing will end up actually being perverse effect rather than a liberating effect.
Well, that's a really, really good point. And what we're doing right now is we have to get it descheduled. From a policy perspective, a number of these things would have to be incentivized or encouraged, discouraged through the Farm Bill, which we're not going to get another shot at for another 5 years. The Farm Bill has become so bastardized and upside down, and we incentivize nothing that has nutritional value, incentivize everything that doesn't, in most senses, and things that are really a negative effect on our environment. So we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. Can we stop the agrochemicals and monopolies from trying to get a hold of this? I don't know. I know that they will try. I think we can be assured of that. We're really focused on, can we create and demonstrate some models where regional fiber systems, like the one that Patagonia is now looking at investing in Central Appalachia, so they have a regional facility to work with a co-op of farmers to provide that fiber. We think educating the consumer and the public about the benefits of one particular fiber over another is a winning case. And we think we can win that case, whether we're talking about fiber or whether we're talking about a number of other things that hemp can produce for us. This is an educational challenge for us, because it's been gone so long from this country that people just don't understand what its attributes are. We are the largest consumer market in the world for hemp products, by the way, and the only G7 nation that doesn't allow its farmers to cultivate it. This policy is so perverse, it should anger everyone on Capitol Hill, particularly everyone who wants to talk about freedom and entrepreneurship and such. And for the most part, this is a very bipartisan support. There's a lot of bipartisan support around this, but that support hasn't moved itself into a bill or a hearing yet. It's stuck in the Senate, the Judiciary Committee right now with Senator Chuck Grassley, who so far has refused to give it its due. So we're going to continue to build our political capital. We have a petition on change.org right now that was started by Willie Nelson's son Micah, who's one of the latest members of our board of directors at National Hemp Association. Probably as we're speaking right now, we just blew through 75,000 signatures. We wanted 100,000 by Independence Day, and we want 1 million by the Democratic Convention, because we intend to show up there and make sure that in that platform, it is descheduling, not rescheduling. And there is a significant difference between the two. So with that, my time is up. I'll be here for the next for a couple of days, so I'm happy to talk to anybody. Thank you.